Hey everyone, this is a different Truon 2 than you've ever probably seen before. We just traveled across the country from South Dakota to none other than Belleville, Ohio, home of SteadFast. And this is my friend Henry Richards, and we got introduced through Jeremy Senior at Lucky Strike Designs, and John Jackson and Not Stock Photo actually started that whole pilgrimage to me meet Jeremy and then me meet you. In Daytona, we're sitting there chatting one day about carbon fiber and maybe good, maybe bad, all these things, right? And we started talking about, I feel it flexing when I'm going in a big sweeper and I'm really cranking on it. And there's plenty of curvy roads in your country here, right? And so you said, I'd really like to build as much of a raw metal bagger as I can because I'm a metal guy.
Yep.
And you'll see that in the cars. You'll see it in what we're showing you here. I sent you a fender. You cut it down to your shape and you sent it back to me and I said, this is what people want. I'm going to produce it and we're going to call it the Henry. So now you know that's where the Henry fender comes from. This is Henry, behind the Henry fender. He's the metal wizard. He's the design eye behind the whole thing. And it's a treat for me. And part of that conversation that we had was our faith.
Yes.
It happens to be Sunday morning. You had just gone to church. We were a little late for getting here for church because we blew a tire. But the beauty of it is we're here in this beautiful setting in your unbelievable shop. It couldn't be any more still or quiet out other than that kid that just ripped by on the dirt bike. You were about to tell these guys something about your trip to Jordan. What drew you there? What happened there? Just tell me a little bit about your faith background. Were you always a faith guy?
No, I grew up kind of outside of the faith.
Okay.
My grandma would have usually been chasing my dad around
Yeah.
the house while he was drunk, trying to rebuke the devil drinking spirits.
Yeah.
So I kind of made fun of it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, for sure.
She took me as a kid to get baptized. All the girls were getting down in the water, and when they come out, they were screaming in tongues,
Yeah.
and I thought, I'm not getting in that water.
Yeah, I'm not doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of just did my own thing, kind of went through life and
Yeah.
doing what I saw, the drinking, the partying, the having a good time.
Yeah.
And there come a point where I had a little girl, and I knew that I didn't want to be the same dad that my dad was. And so that got me, thinking outside the box and thinking, maybe there's something to this Christian thing. And so one thing led to another. I started going to church, and it didn't stick at first, but when I hit my lowest point, I got invited to church by a girl that is now my wife.
Oh, right on.
So,
even better.
Yeah.
So sometimes, God has all the tools. Pretty girls just happen to be one of them.
Yeah.
And so the right girl asks you to church, right? And, I've met your daughter, Olive, and beautiful young lady, and I've met your wife. And it's exciting for me because, we're a faith-based company, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, right? And it's okay. But I also don't expect my friends to know every scripture. You don't have to quote all the things because I always say, we're just motorcycle missionaries.
Yep.
Okay, in this case, maybe more of a hot rod missionary with the motorcycle problem, right? But the beauty of it is Christ walked amongst the taxpayers and the prostitutes and everybody. He didn't sit in his church and go, you're not better than me or you're not good enough, right? No. And so I think that's what people need to know is we're all going to fail. We're still going to fail. Even after you become a Christian, you're still going to fall on your face. It's just how you get up that matters.
Yep. And everybody thinks, a Christian is a suit and a tie and a Cadillac on Sunday morning, and that's not the case. A Christian, can have tattoos. A Christian can have a beard.
Yeah.
A Christian can hang out on his Harley. You don't have to. The biggest disservice is thinking you have to look a certain way, act a certain way.
Yeah.
The guys walking beside Jesus, they came right off the boats. They probably were talking like a sailor.
Yeah, for sure.
Peter, the third time he denied Christ, he actually cussed. And that tells me, sometimes when I'm having a hard time and I might use a word that I shouldn't use, it's like, man, the guys walking side by side with Christ for a number of years, they still fell.
And that was his community. And so it's like you can have guys in your community who don't necessarily believe what you believe or think like you think.
Yep.
And you're called to just be that example, just to lead a little bit better life. Step it up a little bit, and that's your game.
And sometimes we don't step it up, and that's why it's important to have friends. Hey, Brian, man, I'm having a hard time.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Henry, I got your back.
Yeah,
and that's fellowship. That's at its core. That's what Christianity is about.
Understood, 100%. Okay, now we're going to take a deeper dive, okay? Take me to Jordan. Take me why to Jordan? I mean, something on your heart took you to Jordan.
So I ended up in a church in Dayton by accident on a Sunday morning. We were visiting my wife's brother and would be my sister-in-law. And there was a guy there talking about doing an archaeological dig in Jordan on the Sodom and Gomorrah site. So the Sodom and Gomorrah site would be the story in the Bible goes that the people were exceedingly wicked, so God was going to, if they didn't change their ways, he would rain fire and brimstone from the heavens. And this guy's talking about all the things they found that physically backed up the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Wow.
So I thought, man, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
this is cool. It's like, I already believe, but maybe there's tools that I can take back home.
Yeah.
So when I got out there and got to looking, or well, first when I told my wife I was going to go, she's like, okay, Henry.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those ideas that you have that you might not follow through with.
We'll chat about it. This is just after church. Wait
Yep.
till lunch. Wait 3 months down the road. Wait a year down the road.
Yep. So the more I thought about it, the more I knew I wanted to go. So I stayed after service, talked to the guy, and he let me sign up. I took one of my friends because I know I need some brains to this operation if I'm going to go to another country. And so we get over there, and everything starts laying out like exactly how they said. So we got into this would be the actual dig site.
And it's crazy when you think of how many years that's been there.
Yep. So you're looking to the Sodom and Gomorrah event, probably 4,000 years, right around that 4 to 5,000 years. And then, so the first day we were there, we actually found a girl. So that's been buried for years. And then a couple miles from there, there was a layer of ashes.
Yeah.
So
it shows you that
it shows you that there was a fire, but that's not enough to show you the destruction.
Yeah.
So multiple different areas of these like structures, you could tell something come down from one direction, tumbled the stones in one direction. On the far wall, it was nothing to see like a piece of plaster or pottery cooked into the wall. And when you pull that off, you'd actually have like the oats or barley grains like run out of there. So it was like they got cooked into the wall. So it backed that story up to a T. Seeing that was super cool. Seeing the way that the locals, like my favorite part over there is with the locals, they're Muslim.
Yeah.
And Muslims are taught that, Christians, they have not your best interest at heart.
Yep.
And when we started pushing wheelbarrows with those guys and helping them out, it just unlocked a whole different side of those guys. So there's one point where I'm standing sitting beside one, and they start singing, and we're going back and forth. And the one guy looks over at me and he says, "Henry, you have got to be a Muslim." And I said, "No, Hamza, I'm a Christian." Yeah. And he got super angry and super upset. And I said, "But you are Muslim, I am Christian, we are friends."
Yeah.
And he says, "Henry, we are one?"
Yeah.
I said, "We are friends."
Yeah.
And I remember his head laying right here.
Wow.
And a tear running down my chest.
Yeah.
And then with our broken communication, it took about 3 days for him to, it took about 3-4 minutes for us to figure out what 3 days looked like.
Yeah.
And he says, "You in 3 days, me."
Yeah.
So.
Because you've touched his heart, because you acted in community. Exactly what you just said is the core of Christianity.
Without a doubt.
Is to be in fellowship, to be in community, and just to be good to one another. That was one of the last commandments he gave before he left, love one another. That's one of the hardest things people can do, right?
Without a doubt.
Somebody cut you off, somebody wronged you, somebody went out with your wife. I mean, all kinds of crazy things have happened, right?
Yep.
And why, Nobody can explain the why. It's just a matter of you got to face it, and you got to do it in community.
Yep.
So there you go, kids. All the way from Jordan back here to Henry's Hot Rod Shop. We're talking about community, and I want to show you a little more of SteadFast, so just stay tuned. We broke a part on our truck, so Henry's like, "Let me fix that quick." And then he started telling these guys about Jordan, and so that's how True on Two works. It's true stories about people that love two wheels, and that's how we got to this point, and it's really part of where we're at and where we're going. And so if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, get a hold of Henry, get a hold of myself.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to walk you
we
into
can
that
talk a
creek.
little community and do the thing. In fact, speaking of walking you into the creek, Olive just got baptized.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Right?
Yeah.
And I saw it on Facebook, and you got to do it. Like, a lot of people get baptized in a church, in a tank, in a this, that, but you were really in a creek.
Olive wanted to be in the creek.
That is awesome.
On a stormy, rainy day to boot.
Yeah, and it was raining, and you guys are out there, and I mean, just what you represent to your daughter through that example, and you saying that's what I didn't want to do is be that dad. I want to be this dad. You've done it, my friend. I'm super proud of you.
Love you, man.
Nice to connect. And SteadFast Hot Rods, Belleville, Ohio. Get clocked.